The Top Floor Please podcast, where women in leadership rise together. I'm your host, Melissa McCormick, executive coach and founder of the Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. This is your space to find clarity, grow in confidence, and lead with bold authenticity. Whether you're navigating the boardroom, building your team, or stepping into new territory, you're not alone. Let's talk real challenges, real growth, and real leadership because the top floor isn't just a place, it's a mindset. Alrighty then, let's get started.
All right, welcome. Welcome to the Top Floor Please podcast. I'm your host. I'm Melissa McCormick, and I'm the owner of Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. Grace and Salt, that's where we help leaders get their time back, and we do that through empowering their teams. We do this through the Executive Accelerator Program. Well, today I'm pleased to introduce my dear friend, Dana McFletcher-Hubbard. She's our guest today. So welcome, Dana, and thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Melissa, for having me. And hello out there, everybody. Good to be on the show.
Excellent. So just kind of get us started. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your current role, anything you'd like to share.
Yes, ma'am. So I have been in trucking for over 30 years. Currently, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at TTN Fleet Solutions. We are a nationwide emergency road service for truck drivers. So if they have some sort of a mechanical problem, they need to get a tow, they need to get a tire. We spend our time serving to make sure that those drivers can get up and rolling as quick as possible. And basically, I started in the industry on the ground level, dispatching calls, worked my way all the way up while I was in college. I attended Indiana University. I have a master's from there, and the rest is history. Now I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Now, have you always been with TTN?
No, I started with TTN in 2018.
Okay.
I was with a company called CDI Services, and I was with them for almost 25 years.
Okay.
And so I got recruited by TTN in 2018, worked remotely before remote was really a thing,
Okay. All right. So you were a
and
trendsetter.
yeah, I had the opportunity to work remotely for a year and go through all of the things that happen when you're working in between the walls, right? And so
Mhm.
when the pandemic happened, it prepared me to be able to work with my team because of the mental aspect of what was going on during
Mhm.
that time. I think it
Mhm.
prepared me for that. So I'm grateful to God for the experience. It wasn't a good thing to have to transition from a company that I've been with for over 25 years and starting all over again, but there was a reason for everything, I feel.
That's right. Yeah, that is right. So in kind of thinking about that, the 25 years, the leadership journey that you've been on, take us back to that pivotal moment where, something happened and how did it shape you, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so actually there's been several, so we
Yeah.
don't have that kind of time, so I'll just tell you, throughout my journey of my career, there's been some major things that have happened that were out of my control. The first thing that happened was 9/11.
Mm,
When 9/11 happened, it impacted cash and the cash flow of businesses. And when that happens, the first thing they do is look inward and say, where can we cut?
yeah.
And because I am in the service industry, a lot of businesses looked and said, hey, you know what? Maybe we should take this in-house and all of the things. And we were able to overcome that. I
Mm,
actually came to my original company with a little bit of telemarketing background and so forth. And so along the way, they actually groomed me in different areas of the business so that I was fortunate enough as I was getting my education to be able to apply the things that I was learning. And
mm,
so I did sales, I did training, I did collections, I
mm,
did um, basically, moved into management at that particular time. And I started out within like sales management and then transitioned into operations management. And towards the end of my career with that company, I was the director of operations and sales. So
wow.
the major thing that happened 9/11, and then I graduate, I get my master's degree, everything's going great. I'm at the height of my income in my career, and then the mortgage crisis happens.
Oh, super. 0809. Yes.
Yes, you remember that, right? And
Hmm.
so same situation, companies start taking things back in, they start cutting back. So, we're up and then wham, something happens in the economy and we're going down and then we have to fight and go back up. And along my career, because I did have that telemarketing background and sales, the company had me go out, get new customers. I had to learn how to build relationships with people, retain them,
Mm,
the ups and downs of selling the business and delivering on the promises that you make when you don't have control over operations and how they
yeah.
execute has
Yeah.
had a impact on my career and made me the person that I am today.
Yeah. I love that. There are so many lessons right in that description and that introduction you gave us from learning all different type, so you go into a position, you go into a company thinking that you're, entry level or wherever you are, whether you're in the sales department, finance, wherever it is. And what you explained, where what I got out of that was, wait a minute, just because I might be in the sales department today or
Mhm.
in the, contract or purchasing or whatever today, doesn't mean that I shouldn't have these other experiences within the company to build your portfolio, so to speak,
Exactly.
right? Because you became super valuable
Mhm.
when times became tough. You weren't only a one, as they, I'm dating myself now, but a kind of a one trick pony, right?
Mhm.
You had all of these other aspects and talents and gifts that the company, you were able to provide more value to the company. I love that. Big lesson right there. So thinking about all of that, what is one lesson that you would share that you learned kind of the hard way?
I would say that, be careful about people pleasing
Mm,
because, as you gain experience and you learn about what's right and what's wrong, it's okay to speak up when you see that things are wrong because it's going to have an impact on your career. It's going to have an impact on the business that you work for. And, one of the core values that we have at the company that we're here, that I'm with now, is integrity, right? And so as a younger individual, I would say that, not necessarily that I would always go along to get along, but there were times where I could see the writing on the wall that we were headed into a bad decision, right? And having my experience and being able to apply it now as the leader that I am, I am known for being a person that will tell it like it is, right?
mhm,
And it's not just to be a person of conflict, or to undermine anyone, but we have a responsibility as leaders to have the tough conversation, right?
mhm.
And so sometimes
Yeah.
people avoid that when they don't want to deal with the conflict that comes
Yeah,
from it.
especially our younger generations that are just entering the workforce. It's hard to, when you've got that feeling in your stomach and you're like, I know I should say something, but who am I, right? Who
Mhm,
am I?
mhm.
And so I think that that's really important for that 20 something, 30 something, um, employees that are in the organization, and that is to speak up. And so how did you do that? How did you learn how to speak up?
Bumps and bruises along the way, as
uh,
far as, having it impact the stress level and my mental health in dealing with the positions that I held, right?
mm,
Because not speaking up for the workload and the processes and the things that impact your daily responsibilities,
mhm,
you are being held accountable for your role and being a productive member of the job. And so,
mhm,
in order to be able to do that, it takes two. You have to have good leadership. You have to have people that are willing to listen on the other side. That would be the other note that I would give, is that understand the culture of the business that you work for. because if you're in a toxic work environment, you'll know it, because if you try to make suggestions or give an opinion about something, and this is not to say to go complaining about everything, because, we know that there are things that we call it the happy path. There are things that fall off the happy path, and we
Mm.
have to be firefighters sometimes and
Yeah.
fix things, right? That's a part of being a leader. However, anything that impacts your workload and you know that there is a better way, or you want to make suggestions, don't be afraid to take those chances. You mentioned about me being involved in different aspects of the business so that I learned the entire operation from start to finish. It wasn't without a nudge, right? Someone had believed in me. They saw something in young Dana because I was a go-getter, right? I wasn't afraid to answer phones and to do things that other people didn't do. Because when I came into the industry at a young age, there weren't a lot of women in the positions that I was in taking those phone calls. I worked with a lot of men.
Hmm.
And that's fine because they
Yeah.
were the ones that taught me and mentored me. However, I actually laid groundwork for a lot of women to come behind me because I showed them that we could do more than just be administration, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so that took, me speaking up for myself, because
Yeah.
there were people that tried to put a thumb on me because they were like, oh no, you don't have to worry about that, or that's my
Mm.
job, or only stay focused on this, or be concerned about that. And I just didn't sit and take it. I knew that
So
if I wanted to change, I had to apply myself.
be part of the change. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so I want to kind of re- look at it from the executive side. So here you
Yeah.
are, the chief
Hmm.
revenue officer. So from an executive perspective, speaking to all the executives out there, what would you tell them if, to look for the young Danas? Like what should they be looking for?
Well, a lot of us old schoolers are used to the saying of my door is always open, right? Know that people aren't just going to come
Mhm.
walking through that door sometimes. They may not see the opportunity. You have to look for it in them. When a
Mm.
person's light is shining, sometimes it may be dimmed because it's blocked, right? There are
Mhm.
obstacles that get in our way, and it's our job as leaders to look for the good in people and to nurture those things. So when you see a person that works hard and gives you, every more than what you ask for in a position, don't just hold them there because that's convenient for you. There are times where there's other opportunities that a person can transition to that would actually be more of a benefit to the organization. But we get stuck sometimes because we're like, well, they're good at what they do,
Mm.
and I don't want to have to worry about
Right.
replacing that. So I'm just going to leave them there, even if I know that they're capable of more. And
Mm.
then what ends up happening is you don't bring the best out of the employee. And what could happen is they could get recruited by someone else.
Mm.
So now
Yeah.
you've invested into a person, you've taught them things, they've learned things that you want them to know that could take them into the next level. But because you left them where they were, they found out for themselves that there's other opportunities out here and you may lose them.
Yes, yes, excellent. Yeah, great advice. It's so true. And it is easier, right? The path of least resistance is to leave your team. If you've got all cylinders clicking,
Yeah.
then I'd rather leave that so I don't have to worry about it. And it takes energy and intentionality to actually look at the team and go, okay, where should this person be in 3 years? And then have that conversation. That's hard when life is, business is busy or times are tough or whatever it might be going on in that particular company. That's hard, but boy, is that so, so incredibly true.
Hmm.
So, when we talk about chief any officer, right? But chief revenue officer, there's a lot of pressure.
It is.
And so I'm just wondering, they make diamonds out of pressure, right? I forget the saying, but more pressure anyway than we get diamonds out of that pressure, out of coal, I guess. I
Mhm.
think is the saying, something along those lines. But what did that teach you going through the pressure or conflict or going through that in your leadership journey? What did that teach you about yourself?
Well, I've had the advantage of being able to rank up a step at a time and learn the business along the way. It's funny that, not to take a swing at my peers or anything, but one of the comments that was made about me often is that you're too transactional. You need
Oh,
to come
really?
out of the weeds. We need you up here.
Oh,
And
I see.
and
Yeah.
I
Okay.
understand that we're operation, right? And
Hmm.
so that's our core business.
Yeah.
But the advantage that comes from that is I have the ability to see far beyond the transaction on what the outcome is going to be. So just whenever we're having a conversation to prepare me for the role that I'm in now. When I'm
Yes.
having a higher level conversation, I don't necessarily have to go into the weeds to explain what it is that we do.
Hmm.
However, you have to meet people where they're at because everybody that you talk to across the aisle, whenever it is either a supplier partner or it is a customer of yours, you're going to be talking to people at all different levels, and you need to be able to understand your business at the different levels because you're expected to at the level that you're at.
Hmm.
And so being chief anything doesn't necessarily mean sit on high and point down
That's
and
right.
delegate and
Well, it
direct and
shouldn't. Let's say it shouldn't.
well, and it depends on the organization. We're a fairly small organization, so that
Right.
gives me the opportunity to be in touch with my people, right?
Hmm.
So, I wouldn't expect a multi-billion dollar CEO to know all the
Of
way
course.
down to
Yeah.
the keyboard of the individuals that do the
Hmm.
job.
Of
But
course.
still being in touch with your business, your leadership, the different levels of leadership, the experiences that they have. Going back to my door is always open. If no one's walking through it, you're just making a statement, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, what does that tell you about yourself as a leader? You need to look inward
Hmm.
aside from the college degrees and the work experience, I've taken leadership courses before. And
Hmm.
you're constantly learning something new about yourself. We did as a group, TTN leadership. We all took a leadership course together. I can't remember the name of it, but I can tell you that I called it the Man in the Mirror course.
Oh, okay.
And
There's a lot of self-reflection.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Like one of the examples is it's called already always listening is a concept. What is that? Going into a meeting with your mind is already made up about what you're
Mm.
about to talk about, what so and so's going to say. Before anybody even opens up their mouth to have a conversation with you, you've basically already set your mind on the outcome, where
Hmm.
it's going to go. You basically put up a wall in between you and the individuals, and you're not open and receptive to the ideas and the conversation that you need to have. And it could be a deterrent.
Hmm.
So you need to be able to kind of clear your lens, if you want to get the best out of the conversation so that when you communicate with people, listen to them, um, and have a little self-reflection because if people don't talk to you about things, you have problems within your business as a leader and your people don't come to you.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Is it because they don't feel that they're being heard? Is it you're difficult to approach? Is it the means by, which they have to get to have that conversation? What is it about that?
Approachable, right? Exactly. So back to the clearing your lens, right? So you always already have your mind made up. How do you clear your lens? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, I do my best to listen first.
Mm.
I have the gift of gab, if you haven't picked up on that from this podcast so far. And, I want to say that, there's been some trials and tribulations in coming into an industry that's male dominated and
Mm,
proving myself, right?
mm.
And so sometimes it could come across as, I call it assertiveness. And, when men do it, it's okay. But when women do
Yes,
it, it's a
yes, we're
problem, right?
bossy
And,
pants.
and
Yeah.
this isn't a men against women thing. I'm just
Nope.
being honest about what I've
Yep.
experienced. And
Hmm.
so as I came through the things I had to go through in life, I found myself feeling like I have to prove myself every time there was a conversation. So what
Mm,
I had to do is realize for myself that I'm proven, I'm experienced, I know what I'm talking about. And as long as I stay within integrity when there is a conversation about something that I don't know about, and I speak and say, hey, I'm not certain of this, but I can get you the answer or whatever the case may be. People are more receptive to that. People will listen to you when you're not trying to talk over their head or, I joke about chat GPT and your way through life, right?
mm,
Because I have a concern. I know that AI is here. It is a method by which people are going to use to streamline things, and
yeah.
it's a quick resource, but it also is a fast track way for people to stop picking up books, for going to
Mhm.
the school of hard knocks, the way that we had to learn things. And I'm
Yeah.
concerned about the generation that's coming up now. Because
Mm,
yeah, you can type and have a, conversation with AI and ask it things and it's going to give you answers, but the difference between someone that has went and typed into a machine versus someone that has actual experience could mean the difference between a relationship that could be a deal breaker, right?
yeah.
So we have to be careful of these things. But, just going back to, the question of clearing the lens, right?
Hmm.
And making sure that, of course, you do your due diligence to understand what it is that you need to discuss before you discuss it. But be open. Be open to new suggestions, new ideas. You may not have to agree with someone. You may have different perspectives because of the way you came up or the career that you've had. However, there is a lot to be learned about things that we have in common, problems that happen within a business. I'm finding that out, as I've had the opportunity to step outside of the organization and do more networking with women in trucking and organizations like that, coming across the aisle with people that may not be specifically in what it is that I do, but we have some common areas of interest as leaders that we can learn from one another and we can help each other. And you can't
Yeah.
do that if you're always talking.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I love that. There was a lot of nuggets in there, and we'll have a different conversation about AI too, because I really would love to get your insight on that. And speaking about just kind of thinking about your success, how do you define success today, and has that changed over time?
Yeah, so what's interesting is, the success on paper versus the success in your mind. I think there's two different
Oh,
um, because if you define yourself by paper, let's
mm-hmm.
say revenue, growth, up,
Title.
down, you will feel unsuccessful because there are things that are not within your control, right? Job loss, business loss, things gone wrong within the organization. My opinion of success is, are you applying yourself in a way that you are being compensated for and giving everything that you can to fulfill those responsibilities? That is how I define success in the role.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can be a person that does all of the things that you're supposed to do. You're knowledgeable about what you're doing, but you can also work in an organization where there are other individuals that make decisions too that have an impact on the outcome of your business that could have a negative impact. So you have to be careful about how you define that success,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, I think that's really important. Um, Having it on paper, does that align with your own internal definition of success, right? Because I mean, you hear that it's lonely at the top. It certainly is for obvious, for all kinds of different reasons, but it also could be that you really strive to be vice president level or whatever that level was. But once you got there, you're like, okay, but this isn't exactly fulfilling me, right? So what is that success inside? I love that very much. So as we just kind of wrap up here, I just have one question before we dig into our bonus round. But what do you want the women who come behind you to know about leading and leadership?
Things are going to happen that will become obstacles, but that's okay. We get detoured, but just like uh, the Google Maps, you can reroute yourself and get back on path. Do not give up.
Yeah.
Know that, you know, first of all, I'm a person that believes in God. I have to put that out there that,
Love
I'm
it.
grateful that, all of the trials and tribulations that I've come through, He has carried me through. I have to reflect on those things sometimes because you have to look at where am I at today versus 20 years ago? Or
Mm,
if you're a young person, where was I at last year? And if I'm not where I want to be, what steps do I need to take to get there?
mm,
You have to sit down, do a little self-reflection, but don't carry those bags along. Don't beat yourself up about the mistakes that you made. It's okay to understand, yes, I didn't make the right decision here, but course correct. Fix it. Do what you need to do next time so that you don't make that mistake again. If you
mm.
see that you're not going down the right path, what is it going to take for you to get back on course? Do the work, do the hard work, and believe in yourself because you have a purpose that was given to you by God, and He won't steer you wrong, but you have to be willing to listen to Him, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's,
Walk. Yeah, and that's the thing. You got to be willing to walk through that window or that door, not the window, but walk through the door as it's opening,
yeah.
even though it's scary, super
Hmm.
scary. When you were preparing for this podcast, you had to uh, um, you had to complete an application, and in that application, you said, "I don't recall anyone suggesting transportation as a career path."
Mm-mm.
I loved that quote, and I'm quoting you.
Yeah,
Um, and so I just want to talk about that just a little bit.
sure.
My background's in transportation, but by accident. Well, is it by accident, right? Maybe I was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
work at Taylor Company, but I got into international shipping. And I didn't know, I loved international, but I didn't know anything about shipping and how to ship things from the United States to wherever. And it became my passion and my lifelong career.
Yeah.
So just let's talk a little bit about the career path and getting into transportation and why somebody should want to do that.
So what's interesting is I stumbled on this. I was looking for a job and it was an advertisement for a road support coordinator. And I thought, what is that?
Yeah.
And I looked up the skills and saw multitask, being able to type, being able to be an effective listener and all these things. I thought, well, that's me. I have those
Yeah.
skills. So then I found out, that it was an emergency roadside service for truck drivers, and I had never worked in trucking. Had no mechanical skills whatsoever. But what I did have is a family experience that we were all traveling together, and the vehicle that we were in was broke down roadside, and we had to wait on a tow truck for like
Okay.
4 hours. And I remember that feeling. So anyway,
Yeah.
fast forward, that's how I connected it, right?
Oh, I
And
love it.
and so what ended up happening is as I learned more about the job itself, just in the beginning, the dispatching aspect of it, of dealing with drivers and service providers and all of that was trained. But as I went along in my career and I was in college, different aspects of things that I was learning, I was able to apply that knowledge to the job. And so basically I could fulfill, I have business degrees. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was able to fulfill some of the things like we switched phone systems and I was able to do
Mm,
project management and all of that. And so what I would say to anyone that is not in transportation is that we have all of the core things that are functions, right? So if you
mm-hmm.
have an accounting degree or if you're in sale or marketing and IT and all of those things can be applied to this industry. I think a lot of people think of trucking as just truck driving
Yeah, I think so too.
and dispatching when there's a vast
Yeah,
amount of
dispatch
other
those.
and there's a vast amount of other opportunities within transportation that are there. But yeah, no one, it was all about,
Mhm.
hey, go to either technical way, right,
Right.
to learn a trade or to go into college and all. And even throughout my college career, I never heard anyone mention
Mm-mm.
transportation really,
Me
right?
neither. Yeah.
And so we talked about the supply chain and
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing but it didn't connect the dots for me to think, I could have a career here. I just stumbled into it. And then
Yeah.
here I am over 30 years later
Yeah.
in transportation and still maintaining, a career, which I'm very proud of.
And the impact to our world that you and your company um, fill, right? Because
Yeah.
when I'm, and we're going to do just a little plug here for women in trucking. If any listener is not aware of the Women in Trucking organization, woman or man, you need to research it. It's an incredible organization. And
Yes,
now
it
that
is.
I'm part of it, and I drive a lot, and I'm down the interstate. I've always paid attention to trucks just because of
Mhm.
my background, but also now I'm a little bit more aware.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm like, when I see a truck on the side of the road that needs help, I'm going to be thinking of you.
Oh,
You
thank
know,
you.
the impact, serious business, and the quicker that that truck gets fixed, the
Yes.
quicker that those goods can get to where they need to be. I mean,
If I may add, the pandemic. So
oh
we talked about
yes.
major pieces of things that happened throughout my career. The pandemic happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that was a key time for people to actually have a newfound respect for transportation
Mm,
because we took for granted the supply chain because whenever you go to the grocery store, things are just there, I mean, you run out of stuff every once in a while, but I saw major holes in supply chain
mm.
when it came to like groceries and the
Yes,
big one is the toilet paper,
toilet paper.
but yeah, but the I actually went to a Walmart store and I have never seen this with my own eyes where all of the meat was gone.
Oh
And
yeah,
like because
yeah.
people were, like going out and just buying up things
Mm-hmm.
because they were afraid that they were going to run out and
Yes,
all of that. And so
yeah.
on the other side of that, I salute every single driver, dispatcher, maintenance professional, anybody in trucking. We were deemed the essential at that point,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes,
Because we couldn't hide from that. Like we were
yeah.
fortunate because we're a contact center and we went virtual during that time, which is a story for another day, but we were in a building and then we overnight had to take our contact center
Mm-hmm.
and go virtual.
Yeah.
But the mechanical aspect of this, as far as like the repairs, the trucking part, everybody still had to have physical contact and take risks every single
Yes,
day
you're on the
to
front
make
lines.
sure that we had the things that we need. And sometimes it's a thankless job, and
Mm-hmm.
so come back to me and my career and my purpose. I've spent over 30 years supporting drivers that are broke down along the side of the road. It began with my family sitting on the side of the road for
Yeah.
4 hours and that understanding of the feeling, and it didn't even
Mm-hmm.
have freight attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I came into the career, I understood the
Mm-hmm.
mental aspect of what's going on with these drivers, right? They're on the road by themselves
Mm-hmm.
for long periods of time. They're not teamed or have, their family riding with them.
Mm-hmm.
They spend hours upon hours away from their families. and out there doing what they need to do for us. And so when they break down, you never know what's on the other side of that. You don't
Mhm.
know if there was something important. They have someone in their family that's getting married this week and they're trying to get back
Mhm.
to. They have circumstances at home of things that they're trying to do. Financially, it impacts the drivers. And so that's the fuel to my fire, Melissa,
I love it.
is being there to serve and to make sure as an organization that we have an impact on trucking because it is critical that we keep these guys up and going.
Yeah, I
Guys and
love it.
girls.
Guys and gals, that's right. Thank you so much for that. And I think it's important that we need to shine some light on it. So let's have a little bit of fun. Let's
All
dig
right.
into our fast bonus round. These are our top floor lightning questions. So the first question is coffee, tea, or something stronger after a long day?
I'm gonna say none of the above,
Okay. What is it?
actually.
What do you do after a long day? How do you unwind?
TV.
TV.
I
You got
like
a
to
favorite
watch
show?
record shows, and I do a little bit of the dramas. And I've been watching something called it's either From, like I like the suspense
Okay.
things and stuff like that.
Okay. I love that too. Yeah, you're gonna have to let me know what that is because I'm always looking for a new show. What's your go-to, like your hype song before a big meeting or a presentation, or what do you do to get yourself energized?
Pray and listen to some gospel.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Yes, that's an excellent way to get prepared.
Yes.
Um, and then this one's interesting, and so I'm interested to hear what you would answer it. One word your team would use to describe your leadership style.
That's a tough one, Melissa. I'm gonna say assertive.
Assertive. Okay, love it. What's a book or a podcast that you recommend that you would recommend to our listeners?
The Woman in Trucking book club and I just read a book called The Go Giver. It's by Bob Berg and John David Mann. It
Okay.
is outstanding. I didn't know what to
Go
expect.
giver,
It's called The Go Giver.
giver.
It's
Oh,
about giving, right?
all
And
right.
I'm a giver, but
Yeah,
it also talks about giving for the right reason and how it can impact you because some people do it because they want attention, or some people do it for
right.
various reasons, but it's a very good read. I think it's an
Okay. Go
outstanding
giver.
leadership read. Yeah, The Go Giver.
Okay. Thank you. So, last question. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? Like what would you have done back in the day when you graduated from high school? If you didn't go on to college, what would you be doing?
Actually, I would have opened up a nightclub.
A nightclub?
So I have another little secret to share. I have a alter ego, DJ Melody.
What?
When I was in college, I DJ'd. I was a radio personality for a couple of years, and I DJ'd for several years, starting in the 90s, all the way up until 2017 or so, 2018. I went into karaoke. That was the last thing that I did. I still have all my equipment here. I have karaoke. Me and my husband love to do karaoke.
We do too.
But yeah, and he actually worked in food service at Notre Dame for many, many years, and he does catering. So we're like the dynamic
You
entertainment duo.
you are,
DJ, cater. There you go.
and you know shipping. So yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I learned something new. That's fantastic. DJ Melody, did you say?
DJ Melody.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Well, it has been fantastic chatting with you today.
Thank
How
you.
can everybody find you? How can they connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Love it.
I'm not big on social media, but I am definitely active on LinkedIn under Dana McFletcher-Hubbard at TTN Fleet Solutions.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So, for our listeners, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can either do YouTube or you can find us on Spotify. That way, you're going to be notified with whenever our podcasts drop. If you're interested in my Executive Readiness Accelerator program, I want you to comment the word ready and I'll send you some information. Awesome. Thanks again, Dana. It was a pleasure having a chat with you today. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with our listeners.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks so much for hanging out on the top floor. If today's episode gave you something to think about or a little boost, share it with your friends to keep the momentum going. And hey, if you're ready to rise, find your voice, and lead with clarity and confidence, we'd love to connect with you. Reach out at graceandsaltleadership.com to learn how Grace and Salt can support your growth. Remember, you don't have to lead like everyone else, just lead like you. All right, I'll see you next time on the top floor.